Hello, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Just depends on what time you're all watching this presentation. Today, we're presenting our topic on leadership with the well-known and well-renowned Howard Schultz. He is the former CEO of Starbucks, as we all know. And I'll go ahead and allow my next colleague to kick it off with his portion of the presentation. Thank you very much for tuning in on the first virtual/online presentation of the semester.
Howard Schultz is an American businessman most known for bringing Starbucks coffee to popularity. He worked as a chief executive officer and chairman spanning for nearly 3 decades between 1986 through the year 2000 and again in 2008 through 2018. Schultz was born in Brooklyn, New York in 1953. He attended Northern Michigan University on a football scholarship while earning a Bachelor of Arts degree in 1975 for speech communication. He was eventually recruited by a Swedish houseware company to become vice president and general manager for their American drip coffee manufacturing subsidiary called Hammerplast. Schultz was intrigued by one of Hammerplast's clients, Starbucks Coffee, who continually purchased large quantities of the company's espresso makers. He eventually visited the company's original coffee and tea retail store located in Seattle's famed Pike's Place Market. In 1982, Schultz accepted an offer made by original owners Jerry Baldwin and Gordon Bowker to join Starbucks as head director of marketing and retail operations. After visiting Italy in 1983, Schultz was inspired by Italian cafes to open his own coffee bars in Seattle. He found success early on and an interest to expand his cafes. Coincidentally, at the same time, original Starbucks owners Baldwin and Bowker had decided upon selling their outlets. In 1987, Schultz, along with Seattle investors, purchased the Starbucks chain for $3.8 million. It was then Schultz became CEO and finally was able to merge his own shop with the brand. Starbucks began to offer espresso-based drinks such as cappuccino and cafe latte, in addition to brewed coffee. In 1992, Schultz took the company public with 165 stores, and the regional coffee company began to develop as one of the world's top brands. Over 3,500 stores were in operation in 12 countries by the end of the decade. In the year 2000, Howard Schultz moved from CEO to focus on international growth as Starbucks' chief global strategist. During this time, Schultz, along with a group of investors, purchased and operated 2 professional basketball teams in Seattle, all while Starbucks sales grew annually from $2 billion to $9 billion by 2007. Although Starbucks was under rapid expansion, their annual same-store sales began to stagnate. Howard Schultz returned as company CEO amidst the global financial crisis of 2007 and 2008. At this point, Starbucks price stock began to plummet by 50%. With an oversaturated market and struggling economy, Schultz's primary focus as CEO emphasized on customer service and experience, along with temporarily halting new store openings. By the end of the year, Starbucks stock rose 9%, and Schultz sold both Seattle sports teams. The company turnaround included the closure of 900 stores and laying off of 6,700 baristas between 2008 and 2009. Schultz's plan even involved temporarily pausing service in stores nationwide to train baristas and properly prepare an espresso. By 2009, company stock rose 143% and posted positive same-store sales scores ever since. In 2016, Howard Schultz moved to the executive chairman position within Starbucks as Kevin Johnson took over as company CEO. Starbucks has been an $80 billion business for nearly 5 decades. It presently holds 57% of the United States cafe market and operates 30,000 cafes across the globe. Howard Schultz has resigned from all positions at Starbucks in 2018. He remains operating investments in other consumer businesses such as Groupon, Course Hero, and Allbirds through the venture capital firm Maveron. Schultz has shifted his focus toward public service. His philanthropic measures include the Schultz Family Foundation, which invests in training and hiring out of work and not in school 16 to 24-year-olds, as well as post 9/11 military veterans. Most recently, Schultz briefly entertained the idea of a potential 2020 presidential candidacy bid, ultimately deciding against a campaign run as an independent third-party nominee, citing America's two-party system would run the risk of re-election of the incumbent president.
For Charles' personality, Charles is gifted with natural leadership and the capacity to accumulate great wealth. He has great talent for management in all walks of life, especially in business and financial matters, where he contributes the greater vision, purpose, and long-range goals. He has the ability to inspire people to join him in his quest even when they are incapable of seeing what he sees. Those around Charles need his continual guidance, inspiration, and encouragement. Charles is a good judge of character, which serves him well in attracting the right people that he can prod them then into action and direct them along the lines of his vision. Charles' challenge in life is to understand that power and influence must be used for the benefit of mankind, and only for his personal gain. As with many great visionaries, Charles can be reckless for lack of attention to details. Charles has the talent and the sheer guts to make more than one fortune and build many successful enterprises. Wise and emotional that made him today a perfect day for Charles to invest in humanitarian causes. Leadership and ethic go hand in hand in helping Charles to achieve meaningful success in his endeavor. Ethic, meanwhile, described as his action relate to honesty, integrity, fairness, and concern for others. Ethical behavior by Starbucks result in the creation of a long-term supply of good quality coffee, able to reduce costs and increase their overall efficiency. This enables Charles to leverage Starbucks' ethicality into a viable corporate image.
Now on to Schultz's reputation amongst managers and leaders. During a 4-day conference that was held in New Orleans, Schultz had the opportunity to go ahead and influence many different leaders from different tiers and from different departments so that they can go ahead and bring the best out of themselves. Schultz really relied on the intuitive leadership skills that many of these different managers held. His goal was to go ahead and have these people influence their own employees so that they can go ahead and one day do the same for others. And he didn't want this to only bleed within the company and organization of Starbucks, but he wanted people to go ahead and live this as a way of life so that they can go ahead and apply these different skills and assets on a daily basis. Now, you may be asking me, how does this apply to Schultz's reputation when it comes to specific leadership skills and specific leadership ideologies that we learned throughout the semester? When it came to running subordinates at stores, he made sure that he was very open-minded. He wanted to go ahead and seem welcoming and progressive and innovative with his ideas. In this case, as you can see here displayed on the slide, so it's openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. This was also taught in our organizational behavior class, and again, it was a repeated subject in our 307 course. Schultz rated very high on openness, very high on conscientiousness. He was a very extroverted man. He was also very agreeable. And this is also very applicable to the Myers-Briggs. If you're all familiar with that exam or that test, it is a way to go ahead and see where you fall in with extroversion and introversion, with intuitiveness, perception, and all these other traits. But that's how I figured out he was extroverted, and also through many different interviews and videos that I saw of him. Let's go ahead and move on to the next slide, which talks about the way he was known by his line employees and customers. And overall, he was very highly respected by his peers, not only the corporate directors and leaders that worked with him side by side, but that also bled into these branch managers and how he would visit these stores, and people can just testify within themselves how great of a man he was. He was very valued. He wanted to go ahead and help those people that were underprivileged, and this came with socioeconomic class. It came with people that didn't have an education, people that were really kind of just disregarded, like, you know what, you just work at a Starbucks branch. You're not really going to aspire to be something or someone. When he was, mentoring his leaders, he knew who his people were, and he placed a lot of value on them. And I think that's very important to note. So now I'm going to go ahead and do a interactive class activity online, of course, and it will allow for all of you guys to go ahead and guess what kind of leadership power was used out of the 5 that we learned. Recently, we didn't discuss this in class, but there was a 6th added source of power that involves information, but I won't get into that now. But for this example, I've only mentioned the 5, and I'm going to go ahead and bring up 2 statements. The first statement involves something that he did with another director regarding an initiative. And I want you to go ahead and guess what kind of power was demonstrated just by reading the text alone, this statement. I'm sorry, I'm not used to recording through a laptop. I keep on wanting to look at myself and also at you guys at the camera, so bear with me. Let me go ahead and display the statement. Of course, I know you guys can read it yourselves, but I'll go ahead and do the honors of reading it. We are providing industry-leading benefits for eligible full and part-time partners is a cornerstone of who we are as a company. Along with more options and cost savings, partners will have the access to healthcare. Advocates, a team of individuals dedicated to working directly with partners year-round to help them choose and then get them the most out of their healthcare plans. Let's go ahead and think about this. This is an initiative that Howard and Ron Crawford went ahead and did for their part-time and full-time employees. You have to think about the logic, what his message was, what his intentions were. Where is he coming from? Why is he doing this? What kind of power out of the 5 sources mentioned is he trying to display? What is he trying to convey? Again, we have experts, reference, reward, coercive, legitimate. I'll take a moment. You guys can go ahead and decide.
A few moments later.
So it is reference and reward. It is referent because he wants to be liked by his peers and individuals. He wants to be respected. He wants to be likable. So he's appealing to them with a very tempting package, something that he wasn't even supposed to do, that isn't granted for, nobody did something in particular for them to receive this kind of reward. And that goes on to the second power. I wanted to go ahead and have two options for this one because, again, it is a reward. Think about it. You're getting a reward for being a great team member, right? For being a good manager, for being a good general manager, for being a good district manager, etc. But it really does boil down to being a referent power because there wasn't a direct incentive for their employees to do something in order for them to get this health care package, if that makes any sense. Now on to the next example. So this statement is from the current CEO. His name is Kevin Johnson, and he describes how Howard Schultz was with him throughout this whole journey and this whole process. Let's go ahead and take a moment to read the statement. There are no words to fully express our gratitude to Howard for the extraordinary company he has built, said CEO and member of board directors Kevin Johnson. He's helped Starbucks earn the respect of millions around the world by always being true to a higher calling and always being bold, creating a better future. He's taught all of us that it is possible to be a very different kind of public company that must and will continue on my watch. Starbucks' world-class values-based board is comprised of accomplished leaders representing diversity and excellence in global technology, retail, consumer experience, and other relevant skill sets. What kind of power did Schultz have to demonstrate in order for Kevin to reciprocate these kind of feelings and emotions listed? And I'll give you a really big hint. If you guys go ahead and read that last long sentence, and specifically towards the end of that statement, it will kind of give you a clue of what kind of skill sets this person needs to have in order for them to have developed such reputation.
A few moments later.
It is expert power. Howard Schultz is an expert at what he does. He is a very smart man. He has given not only himself, but all of his employees, managers, leaders, companions, success because of his knowledge. And this is very important to note. He has his reputation not only for being a referent kind of leader, a rewarding kind of leader, but for being an expert in his field as a philanthropist, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, as a motivational speaker, as just being this grandiose person. But yeah, that is all for my portion, and on to the next presenter. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is James, and I'll be talking about why is Howard Schultz a great leader. So what makes him a great leader? Howard Schultz practices a transformative leadership which encourages, inspires, and motivate employees to be innovative and create new change that will help grow and shape up future success of their company. He believes in hiring the right people who are not afraid of facing new things or liking the idea of challenging new ideas or status quo. For example, at the time when Howard Schultz was starting out, he wanted to create a place where people can come together to work, to relax, listen to some nice calming music, and of course, drinking coffee. Basically, trying to create a more of a home environment. This is called a third place wave. He challenged the status quo by creating a third place wave, which was not done at the time. So by having a clear vision of what Mr. Schultz strives to achieve, he can easily motivate how he wants the company to run. Mr. Schultz wanted to create an environment similar to a home environment, and he did. A place for meetings with friends, relaxation, drinking good coffee, um, is his and his company's vision. He focuses on his company, but to treat people with utmost respect and dignity as they come to Starbucks. By being a positive influence in his company, He cares for his employees. He provides health insurance and tuition benefits to workers regardless of being full-time or part-time. Also, he gives his employees an option to own stocks. Not only that, but he also provides flexible schedules for those who cannot work graveyard shift. Um, he also values partnerships. Without partnerships, Starbucks wouldn't be what it is today. By reaching out to multiple trustworthy organizations and finding the right partners, it was easier for Mr. Schultz to lay out his ideas, to follow his goals, and build up his brand awareness. For example, Starbucks partnered up with Barnes& and Noble so customers can rent out books while drinking good coffee. Um, by believing in providing employees with the care they need, he believes that is how workers should be treated in his company. Knowing that customers and employees are the main foundation for running a business, Starbucks gives a personal touch to customers who are regulars. They will know what the customer wants and interact with them. If there is a miscommunication, your order will be placed without a problem. This makes the customers feel special, and the employees in return will feel happy to serve them. Not only that, but Mr. Schultz takes his time and listens to his employees' ideas on new orders. One example would be the Frappuccino, which was created by one of his employees.
Thank you, James, for that. Now let's take a look at Howard Schultz's leadership limitations. So I want you guys to make a guess of what you think his leadership limitation might be. If you take a look on the right-hand side, you'll see the multiple choice in purple font. If you think he's unethical, lacking emotional intelligence, or being overmanaging. So let's take a look at the right answer. And of course, it was C, overmanaging. Firstly, I want to point out his campaign on the top right corner there. You'll see the picture, and let's start talking about interpersonal skill. So this is something that he could improve on, which he decided to run for the presidential campaign. But due to lack of support and a lot of ongoing health issues he had, he decided to drop out of the presidential election in 2020. Moving on to the leadership skill, where he could improve on as well, is overestimating his abilities. Back in the recession in 2008, he had this aggressive expansion strategy that closed down stores due to a lot of loss. And there was a lot of internal issues with the employees and the company itself. And lastly, he is overmanaging, taking criticism not very well. So a lot of this is something that he can work on as a leader. Although, let's not get too caught up with the derailment, and let's analyze his behaviors and see what we can learn from his limitations. So, first off, if you take a look at the interpersonal skill, if he did not use his democratic and transformational leadership styles, he would have realized that challenge and striving to change into a different career might be good or be better than just avoiding it and dropping out of the presidential election. So it was definitely his emotions clouding his judgment to not continue with the presidential election. And if he realized to improve the interpersonal skill, he would go into the political standpoint because he came from the business standpoint. So that's something that would have helped, and we can learn from that as from experience. Now, secondly, if you take a look at the AOR model, which we learned in class, of course, that is action, observation, reflection. So what he did back in the recession time, he closed down a lot of the stores, did not listen to his employees as much as the 2 years later after that. He decided that listening to employees and being honest with them was going to help the company bring that back up, just be the best that they can be by listening to their inputs. So he called his employees partners because he could have used the AOR model to see what he did as his action and how he can observe that as seeing how that impacted others or what he can learn from that experience of not having a lot of agreements between him and his employees. Lastly, reflection, which is reflecting on what happened in his experience after that aggressive expansion strategy. By using that, he could have came out with more embracing change and allowing to learn from others also, which we can learn from his limitation. And now Sabrina will be talking to you next.
Hey everyone, this is Sabrina. Going to continue talking about Mr. Schultz here. Howard Schultz landed himself on the world's 50 greatest leaders list for many reasons established by my team. In 2018, Starbucks was named the 5th most admired company in the world by Fortune magazine. Schultz has a belief in intellectual stimulation, which led him to create a brand that broke the normal of coffee culture. His goal was to challenge and inspire his managers because he believes that companies need people with intuitive leadership skills. Whatever Starbucks you go to, wherever you are, you will always get the same perfect taste. Schultz had the goal of giving the best customer care service that includes consistency of Starbucks products. Under Schultz's leadership, Starbucks has delivered a 21,000% gain in the value of its stock price since its initial public offering in 1992. The company's growth was fueled by his decisions to provide uncommon benefits for those who work for Starbucks. He respects cultures and encourages diversity. He gives his employees comprehensive health insurance and an option to own stocks, even part-time employees. As well with that, he offers tuition benefits and flexible shift scheduling. When he was interviewed by Oprah, he said that he actually doesn't really like coffee, but the reason why he went to the business was related to serving. He said that his passion is about building a company that is focused on treating people with respect and dignity. This is the vision of Starbucks. As for the company's mission, it aims to not just have a simple place where people can enjoy their coffee and enjoy some food. It exists to give its customers a place where they can meet up with their friends, hold meetings, do their work, and have some relaxation time. Starbucks has been partnering with organizations to reach out to its market for decades. Schultz believes that by finding the right team to partner with, it will be easier to build brand awareness and achieve its goals. When Barnes & Nobles was around and popular, Starbucks set up stores within their shops in similar locations. This way, customers buying books can enjoy some good coffee as well as some good reading. They also partner with Apple, where customers can now download Starbucks playlists from iTunes, which is usually updated monthly. Customers and employees are pillars of a business. Baristas give a personal touch to customers who are regulars and will usually know their orders. I've had this happen when I've gone to Starbucks every day and gotten a Frappuccino, and as soon as they saw me walk in, they knew what I wanted. This practice makes a customer feel special. Employees will always rectify mistakes and replace the order if done incorrectly. Going back to the Ocean model, he values the input that his colleagues provide him with and is willing to make the necessary changes. He believes it's important for one as a leader to make hard choices in a timely manner and that your employees deserve an explanation on your decision. Schultz would be described as an extrovert amongst his peers and colleagues. Howard admits that he would be where he is today if it wasn't for the opinions and constructive criticism of others that enabled his company to grow. He is described as a well-tempered man and sensible to the emotions and behaviors of others. Schultz is the perfect position today with his net value of $3.1 billion to invest in humanitarian causes. Howard Schultz empowered his leaders and managers by allowing them to have a voice and action in the organization. His management and leadership team would describe him as influential, progressive, and inspirational.